Hey guys, benpaines here, and today we're back once again for another video, and this time we're back down at Teamsport Bristol for a GP1 event that is about to get underway very shortly here as the lights go green. No qualifying and no practice for this one. We're just going to jump straight into the action and see what happens. Now, as you can see, we have qualified quite far back. This was due to F1 style qualifying, and we had a bit of a rough time, much like everyone is having a little bit of a rough time going into the first corner here, and Aaron just disappears off the screen going head first into the barrier, which then causes a yellow flag. But as mentioned, I had a little bit of a rough time in qualifying. The kart was slightly off the pace, and this caused me to be knocked out in the first round of the F1 style qualifying. So we did start in 14th position there, quickly moving our way up into 13th with Aaron pretty much disintegrating into the barrier. But before we jump into the rest of the footage, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it down below, as I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, feel free to hit the subscribe button, as I really do appreciate it. But jumping into our very first lap, you can see with the yellow flag we have come across the line with a 45.424, and I thought there's no time to really hang about here. We see Ruben moves across to the left to take a sort of wider line going into the bottom hairpin, and we take a huge lunge into the bottom hairpin, moving us up into P12. Had no time to waste here if we wanted to sort of carve our way through the pack, and that's exactly what we were going to try our very best to do. You can see us posted up behind Oliver and the current Bristol record holder, lap record holder, Oscar, in front of us as well. So we're going to try our best here to try and get our head down and catch up with them if we could. Now, coming around the Mickey Mouse, you can see we are managing to close up quite heavily, but then due to Constantino effect, they do then race away into the distance again. You can see all sorts of carnage going on. Oliver makes a nice move on the driver in front, which then allows Oscar to follow him through. Now, I thought this was going to be a prime opportunity for me to also follow through, but you can see we are a little bit far back, and we decided to go for a nice lunge into the top hairpin, leaving a fair amount of room on exit, but that is where we were able to move up to into 11th. Now, we do skip forward in this one, as honestly it was just us trundling around the track behind the rest of the train, you can see, which has formed up ahead. And again, we weren't really going to hang around here, making an unorthodox move on Oscar into the second corner there, forcing him out wide and allowing us to move up into 10th position, which I was really happy with. Obviously, according to lap times, Oscar is actually one of the fastest drivers at Teamsport Bristol at the moment. But again, not a lot happened, so we do skip forward once more. You can see we have a little bit of a mistake there coming out of the bottom hairpin, and the pack is still very condensed together, and this just causes all sorts of shenanigans to start kicking off here. You can see everyone's going side by side. We've got Luke and Oliver going side by side here. Oliver runs out of room and slams into us, but we are able to make another position up into 9th place. Now, ahead of us on track, we do actually have Luke Maple, Sam Gaskell and Finley Williams, all drivers that are very capable. So I thought if we were able to tag on the back of these guys and sort of push away, we'd be able to work together to get through the rest of the traffic, which is being led at the moment by Robbie Petrie, who I believe is in 3rd position. So there's a lot of karts all sort of concertinaed together, but as we come around the top corner here, you can see we are getting a little bit of a bump from Oliver behind, so he's right on our tail once more after overtaking him with that little incident on the last lap. But we are taking some pretty decent lines regardless of this, and we're just not quite closing up on the guys up ahead. So I was sort of hoping that they were going to have a little bit of a battle with one another, and we come across the line with our fastest lap of the evening so far at 36.687, which isn't anywhere near our fastest lap at the track overall, with obviously a 36.2 and the current track record being a 36.1. So we wanted to try and get as close to this as possible. However, unfortunately, as we come around the top corner here once again, Ollie goes for a move down the inside after turns to right to avoid slamming straight into the barrier, and again I have to go quite defensive to avoid any sort of switchbacks being made on myself as we come back down the ramp. And you can see how just this one small section of defending has caused us to lose that amount of time. So at this point now, it was just a case of getting our head down, trying to catch up with some of the others. And you can see at this point in the race, which is the second to last lap, or the last lap of the race I believe, we managed to catch up to Finley Williams, who had a little bit of an altercation with Sam and Luke, and therefore he had been dropped by the pack up ahead. And you can see, much like earlier, like we did to Ruben, just moving over to the right hand side, a bit of contact there on the apex of the corner, but we're able to get the move done quite successfully, which then moves us up into 8th position to round out the end of this very first heat. Going quite defensive then towards the end of this lap, just to ensure that we don't lose that position once again. You can see Finn is right behind us as we look over our shoulder, and we come around the last corner to the checkered flag, coming down the start-finish straight, with a 37.180, so nowhere near our fastest lap. We weren't able to improve on that fastest lap with a 36.667, and honestly that was just sort of the whole story for the rest of the night. So we're going to jump in very quickly now at the end of this one to the second heat, where we then lined up in the same position. Now for the top 10, they had their results from qualifying reversed, so the driver that qualified in first position was now in 10th, and the driver that qualified in 10th was now in first. Now obviously due to myself being outside the top 10, as again so much carnage was unfolding into the first couple of corners here, obviously being outside the top 10 we didn't really benefit from this, and this meant that we were down in 13th place once again. So as we come up the ramp here, you can see we're side by side with Oliver Payne once again, able to make the move down the inside, giving him room on the exit. But as we come around the corner, you can see very briefly there's absolute carnage behind, which then results in a red flag and a restart for the start of this heat once again. So instead of starting in 14th, for some reason I was lining up in 13th now on this occasion. So we're coming across the line and trying to push Aaron around the outside as best as we can without causing too much of a problem, as this then leads to the inside for the third corner on the track. So now we've managed to make our way up into 12th, and I had to sort of take the opportunity where I can, sending up the inside of Aaron. Very rough. You can see Finn Williams not impressed with that. There's some yellow flags from behind, which I was just pointing out to Aaron to make sure he didn't sneak past. But yeah, a bit of a rough move to start off the beginning of this second heat once again under yellows. But we are now up into 11th place, and I know this race is about to get underway very shortly. So we're just coming down the ramp here, trying to get as close to Finley Williams as possible, or try and maintain the gap that we had, just to ensure that we're not cheating on the yellows. And we do just get caught napping as the race gets underway once more. You can see how much time we lose coming out the last corner, and obviously due to this yellow flag, we come across the line once again. We're 47.177. Now Finn tries to go for a move on Harley around the outside, coming into the Mickey Mouse, and this just opens the door for me to push my way up the inside into 10th, which I was really happy with. Getting a little bit of a load from the back coming out of the bottom hairpin, but this means that we're able to get a better run coming up the hairpin, up the ramp, sorry, not up the hairpin. And now we're just going to settle in behind Harley and try and put in some consistent laps. Now I'm going to stay on board for these next couple of laps. It just goes to show that despite even feeling like you're driving quite well, sometimes the kart just isn't all there, and that was sort of the case on this night. Unfortunately, the kart I had just didn't quite have the power or have the momentum that I really wanted through the corners, and this just led to, no matter how hard or how hard I was trying to push the kart just wasn't really giving me anything back. And you can see we're trying to stay as tight to the apex as we can, coming into the bottom hairpin, trying to close up to Harley as much as we can as we go up into the top section of the track. Again, coming into the top hairpin here, taking a nice line, carrying as much momentum through the corner as possible, leading on to the second one as we come back down the ramp into the last corner once again, trying to stay tight to the first apex and then hitting the second one to try and preserve that momentum as we come down the start-finish straight with a 37.015, which is quite slow considering the potential of the karts at the moment. And it's just sort of the case, I mentioned, the same thing was sort of happening all night, so I wasn't really gaining any time. Alfie goes for a nice lunge down the inside of Jason here, and Harley is about to follow him through, and unfortunately, as I just wasn't quite close enough, I was hoping to follow through as well, but as you can see here, Jason pings off the barrier and we go straight into the back of him. Luckily, we take a little bit of a shunp from the back, which allows us to keep the momentum that we had. We didn't lose too much time there, but we are now sat behind Jason in 10th position once again. So really trying to find a way past is going to be quite difficult here as we come across the start-finish line with a 37.700 second lap, which obviously 7/10 slower than our fastest lap in this heat so far, and it's obviously due to the collision with Jason on the top section of the track. Again, trying to take a nice clean line into the bottom hairpin to get on the throttle as early as possible coming out the hairpin. Jason then decides to go quite defensive, which is always rather annoying when you're coming up the ramp as you're trying to look for a way to get past, but unfortunately here we're just too far away to really go for a move into the top hairpin, which is one of my favourite places to really go for an overtake. Again, trying to carry as much momentum through the bottom couple of corners there, mucking up a little bit, clipping the inside barrier, and this forces us to lose a bit of momentum there, coming across the line with a 37.184. and then just once more, just trying to tag on the back of the train here. We're sort of preserving the sort of distance to the drivers up ahead that we have so far, but we're just not quite driving the best. I don't think our head was really in the game on this evening, and again you can see we're just coming up the ramp once again, trying to take a nice wide line through the top section of the track just to ensure that we can carry as much speed going into the top hairpin as we can. Jason clips the inside of the barrier there, but somehow manages to hold his momentum, so I knew in the back of my mind that my car didn't quite have the bottom end speed that I really needed to carry me out of the corners. You can see this here, especially coming out of the last couple of corners there as we go onto the start finish straight. And however, we have come across the line of our fastest lap in this heat so far, a 36.949, and we're just hoping to build on this as the heat progresses. Again, just going a little bit wayward into the bottom hairpin, losing grip. You see we're a little bit unhappy with that, and as we come up the top of the ramp, we do have Aaron who's come steamrolling through up the ramp, looking for a way to get back past. Again, you can see we're trying to go a little bit wider to look for a switchback, but unfortunately it just wasn't really on, so we had to sit behind Aaron here and almost work with him. You can see again, even despite being in the hypothetical thermal toe that we have, I'm just losing so much grip, especially going around the last couple of corners, and the back end of the kart was obviously sliding out. This was not allowing me to put the power down in a way that I really wanted it to, which was then consequently affecting our acceleration. As we come back up the ramp, you can see how much time we've lost to Aaron already in the space of a lap, which is never something that you really want to see. As we come around the top sort of section of the track here, Aaron manages to make a move on the driver up ahead. I was looking for a switchback here, but unfortunately I get tagged from the rear. You can see I was a little bit disappointed with that, as I was hoping to get a better run coming down the ramp, but again, just not being able to get the power down as early as I want to, and this just leads to us having to languish behind the driver up ahead of us as we are back down in 11th, still not really making any inroads into the rest of the heat. Now luckily for me, the driver in front of us just decides to wave us through, which I was a bit confused about, but it did allow us a free position up into P10, and honestly this is sort of the end of the video almost. We come round to the last lap of the race, because this is just where we ended up sitting for the remainder of the heat, just sat in behind Aaron. Despite him managing to create a little bit of a gap, you can see that our fastest lap so far, our fastest lap of the evening, was a 36.612. It frankly just wasn't quick enough to keep up with some of the other drivers who were consistently doing 36.4 second laps or 36.3 second laps, and this just meant that we were sort of stuck in 10th position, weren't really able to make any inroads, and by the time that we sort of caught up to Aaron here near the end of the race, my head was just sort of in the gutter, if I'm honest. It was just a bit of a shame, as I know that we are a bit quicker than this sort of performance displayed, but as you can see we come around to the checkered flag in 10th position, coming across the line on the very last lap with a 36.741. We have a little bit of a chat with Aaron here, but this does lead us to the end of the video. A bit shorter this one, as honestly not too much really happened, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. If you have, can you please leave a like on the video down below, as I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as it really does help me out. As always, in the description is my link tree, which holds all of the links to social media that I control or I'm a part of, and we do have a couple more events coming up very soon, including the next round of the Grid Series Championship and also the second round of the Club 73 Weekend Series. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.